Welcome back to the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast. You're with your hosts, Tim and Matt. And man, I am so excited for today's episode. We've been getting so many inquiries lately about this specific topic, which we are talking about elopements. And I'm keen to dive in. But before we do, Tim, what's been happening, mate?
Hey, mate. Hey, it's been a good time lately. We've had quite a few weddings together. And how about that rain, my friend?
Mate, we had a lot of weddings together, and I've never been so wet before at a wedding. Like, far out. We get wet from like some champagne showers and things like that at times, but Saturday was probably next level. But I feel like the bride and groom was so just like attitude was on point. They've been listening to the podcast.
It made a difference. It was pretty cool. We walk in there like, yep, all right, even though it's raining and it's going to bucket down, like our attitude is good. Our vibes are high. I'm like, sweet, because you're going to need it because there's about 40 mil of rain coming.
Yeah, mate. Like, I think I was still wringing my hat out like on Sunday morning for my next wedding that I shot the next day. So it was a bit of a classic. I was just like, I legitimately have never been so wet.
Oh, mate. Like, I was supposed to get a spray jacket that morning and just ran out of time. So I just had my normal jacket and, oh, dude, like, it was crazy. I had a wedding on the Friday as well. Got absolutely soaked from that. And then Saturday was just, like, next level. Like, I was so worried about my camera. Like, I remember there was a point I'm like, dude, like, this, like, is not looking good. Like, 10,000.
You're like, get the rice out.
Where's the rice?
So good, mate. And I was like, I looked at my camera at one point and I looked through the viewfinder and I couldn't see through it properly because it's like a little bit of fog coming onto the screen. So I love that. Didn't affect the photos at all, but through my viewfinder wasn't very happy.
It was so sick though. Hey, like the couple just like were like, yeah, like we want to go out to that tree, which is about like 200 meters like away from the venue, like
through mud,
through mud, like legit. But they absolutely rocked it too. We're like, oh, do you want to let go of the umbrellas and just give in to the weather gods while we get some epic photos and videos? And yeah, it was so good. I'm so glad they just kind of, just didn't worry too much about getting wet and just gave it their all. Because man, like the content looks so nice.
100%. And at the end of the night, we like snuck out with the bridal party and them, and we like got a couple of bottles of champagne and made them all go stand in the rain with no umbrellas, just getting absolutely drenched. Like it was proper bucketing down at that point. And me and you were just like soaked. We got the lights out, got the flashes out, and just got them to champagne shower F1 style. And they were all for it though. They were probably even more for it than we were, I reckon, because they were so committed.
Oh, it was epic. Hey, like I had to get with my video light. So I had to get the umbrella and like literally like duct tape an umbrella to my video light. And it turned out so good. Hey, like
it was mad.
Yeah. What literally made it was their attitude. Like they weren't just out there like with the bucket in like, oh, let's quickly get her over and done with. They're like, yep, we're committed. We're doing this. And even the maid of honor, like when she took the champagne.
Oh, mate, she was getting so into it. She was like spraying it all over everybody. It was great. It was such a vibe. And look, I suppose at the end of the day, it kind of is nice because it shows that, I guess, hopefully what we're doing and some of the reels we're sharing and some of the content we're sharing on this podcast is getting out to our couples and hopefully making a bit of a difference.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, we've done a couple of elopements over the last couple of months, I'd say, and it kind of like ties into exactly what today's episode is all about. So why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown?
That's it, mate. Yeah, we've, as Tim said, we've been smashing them out and it's been awesome. And look, a couple of weeks ago, we did 5 ways to make your wedding epic. And yeah, I thought, well, I guess me and Tim were chatting and we're like, you know what? It's time to do the elopement thing because elopements are so big and popular at the moment and, they're equally as epic. And so today we are talking about 5 ways to make your elopement epic. And I'm so excited to dive into these 5 kind of like, I guess, hot tips / subjects that we've got. And just really, I don't know, hopefully it brings value to your elopement if you are planning one. And we have a few epic ones coming up over the next few months, which if you are one of those brides, hopefully you are listening right now.
And like we've done a few like collectively, like we've done a few like separately. And like I think that there's a couple of key things that really make some of them stand out. And we feel like we're in a really good position to give you guys a little bit of an insight into some ways that you can really elevate your elopement if you're planning to have an elopement. And look, let's first kind of start off with what is an elopement, man.
Look, I feel like this word is like, what is an elopement is so subjective, and a lot of people have their 2 cents on it. For me personally, I'm like kind of, I don't know why, but I have this number in my head of like no more than 5 guests kind of vibe, or even like that's probably too many, like sort of thing. So I just haven't, like, I don't know why there's a number, and in maybe the like wedding industry, people have this like number thing where they go like, this is an elopement, and then this is like maybe a micro wedding, which we're going to chat about soon. But yeah, I think that elopements can be epic, and they will be epic. But if you're planning an elopement, you don't need every single person there.
Yeah, like traditionally, elopements are really like yourself and your partner, and that's it. Like usually, like in previous times, was done in secret. And I think the confusion now lies in like the term micro weddings, which has kind of been thrown around a bit. Now, like,
hipster.
Yeah, it's a bit hipster, 100%. So all you Bondo guys out there, like, stop it. No. But look, a micro wedding, like, I would define it as like tops 30 to 50 people for a micro wedding. Like even 50.
50 is huge still, hey. It's like
50
some big,
is still
like,
pretty big.
Yeah. I'm 30. We'll have a fight about this later, but I'm probably like 30 or even maybe like 25 sort of thing. Always.
Yeah. Well, look, because I did Google micro wedding, and Dr. Google says 50. I'm like, oh, that's a little bit more than I would have like assumed. But yeah, look, like the big C word, COVID has really kind of shined a light on elopements, and you know, with lockdowns pretty hectic in Australia, weddings had to be a little bit smaller. The guest list had to be cut down a fair bit. And I think this is where micro weddings has really originated. And now we're starting to kind of see like an evolution of micro weddings outside of a COVID world. And there's lots of benefits from that, from a cost perspective as well. But also elopements has been a massive, massive thing since COVID. And it just makes it quite special as well between 2 people. And I'm the same with you, man. Like 5 tops for me is an elopement. I think outside of that, the planning is more so like a wedding or micro wedding rather than an elopement.
Absolutely. And you've just got to, like, once you have kind of more than like 5 or so people, there's just not, as you said, like a lot more planning. There's a lot more, like, I guess, you got to have more vendors potentially involved. Like, it just becomes a little bit less elopement-y and a little bit more like wedding-y. And that's where, I guess, like, you know, in my head, I'm like, wedding-y. I feel like every week whenever we have these conversations, I'm always coming up with new words. So soon we'll have like a dictionary of Matt Ashton and his weirdo words that he says. Which is great. But yeah, look, I do think that, yeah, like there's definitely there's kind of, for me, there's a clear cut line between the two. And that's usually when it comes down to just numbers. You know, there's plenty of elopements where it's just the couple, maybe me and you, Tim, the celebrant, and we become their witnesses. And that's always pretty special and pretty epic. And yeah, look, I'm so excited to dive in today, though, and I think we should start touching on some of these topics. So I think, yeah, the first one, number one, straight into it, I'm going to throw it out there, is that an elopement is not a plan B.
Correct. So I'm the same, man. Like, an elopement should not be your plan B. Yes, there is, I think, some cost savings from a wedding and not having a wedding by having an elopement. But like typically, if you're the type of person that really wants something a little bit more personal, you want to do things where you have a little bit more kind of creative control, I think an elopement is really like potentially for you. But it's not to say an elopement is better or a wedding is better. It's really to have a good think about, what would you like?
100%. And it's one of those things where, like, how many couples do we talk to potentially post their wedding and they're like, or I wish I did an elopement. And it's not because they hated their wedding, but just because sometimes they do find it as an easier thing, but they kind of like, and maybe from day one, they were those people we're talking about that saying that it's not a plan B and that you probably should have actually done that elopement in the first place. There's always, I guess, situations where people don't want to be center of attention, but they still want to get married and they don't necessarily have to do this big wedding, and an elopement may be perfect for you. So I guess there's a bit of a general idea in the industry or around weddings in general that an elopement is a plan B and it's just doing it because it's convenient or because it's easy. And I would love to change that.
Yeah, it can't be further from the truth. An elopement really is something special, and man, like we have done some really, really like special elopements, and I don't know, I feel like it's just a little bit more intimate, like, and it's so much more personalized as well, with like, in terms of our different aspects. And I don't want to dive too deep because we're going to go into these points a bit later, but it is just such a completely different experience to a wedding. Now, I think yes, like a wedding, like you are going to be the center of attention, like it is your wedding day and that's cool, but really an elopement shouldn't be something that, oh, well, we can't get married, like we can't have a big like wedding, let's just like elope instead. I think that's a very like fast way to kind of regret an elopement choice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that like a lot of the time when we have elopements, like, well, especially people that are semi-rushing into it, it's always something that needs to happen in a short turnaround, or like, oh, we're going to elope next month. And you're like, whoa, okay, like no worries. And it kind of is like a last minute thought. And sure, sometimes there is need for that. And I'm not saying that there's not, that's for sure. Like there is always need for some of these quick turnaround weddings and elopements. But the ones that I find are the most epic are probably the ones that are planned well in advance and like everyone's on the same page and like all of your vendors are getting excited by it because there is a lot of hype around it still, even if it is only between you and your partner and then your vendors that are involved who are keen to make it epic.
Yeah, because just because it's an elopement doesn't mean you have to skimp out on, not planning things. Like I think an elopement should have quite a detailed amount of planning, because there is so much more creative control that you have over your elopement. There's so many aspects where you don't have the trouble of like multiple different vendors or like location limits and things like that.
We're also not worrying about time constraints either on the day, right, too, which is also something we're going to be touching on later, but it's it's definitely a major positive for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's start, I think, like number 2 that we're going to get into. It's kind of starting from the start of the day, and I think like it really sets up your day well. Do you want to dive into that too?
All right, so number 2 is getting ready together, and also doing a first look. So like you said, like we don't have those time constraints. So yeah, getting ready together is something that can be quite special as well. Like I've had elopements where like the couple have basically got like an Airbnb, like somewhere cool, and it's like close to like their location where they are actually going to like say their vows and have their ceremony, so to speak. But the morning of, like, first looks are almost like that number one thing. I think it's just like super special for an elopement. It really, really is.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of all, like, it's a must-have, I would almost say, because, like, realistically, if you're doing an elopement, you're not typically doing the traditional style wedding anyway, which I guess at a traditional style wedding, for this is my opinion anyway, but Tim's looking at me like, what are you talking about? If you're like, typically you're not doing a traditional style wedding, therefore that like first look is really special. And it's something that you guys can like really enjoy together as a couple. It starts to get the vibes flowing, the emotions may be flowing too. I just think it's something that, you really should consider if you want to make your elopement epic.
Yeah. So like typically like for your like elopement, vows and ceremony, like you're arriving together, because like you're not gonna arrive in separate cars. Like we're not doing that. So look, I agree, a first look is a must. Like not a must, like you can really add your own spice to your own elopement, but I think first look is a very much a welcomed aspect of the day, which really elevates like an elopement experience. And I know you and I have a bit of fun with first looks, and How about
Oh,
the
yeah.
one we did the other week where we made Tyler just wait there a little bit longer and he's getting all nervous and like, don't look, man, like don't look, still got another 10 minutes.
We'll just wait a few minutes while those tears start streaming down the face.
Oh, I'm like,
And I think as well, like when we're talking first looks, people always get really confused in a sense of like, how do you do a first look if we're getting ready together? And you know, like, I guess for me personally, I'm like, well, that's easy because you can still get ready together to a point. And when it's time to chuck that suit on, chuck that dress on, whatever it is, that's when you just go separately, go get changed, get ready, jump out, and then come and hang out with us. We'll get the groom out there first and G you up a little bit.
For sure. So, and like, again, like on a wedding, there's usually time constraints, like there's time pressures to get things done at a certain time. And we just don't have like those constraints with an elopement. Like we do have a fair bit of time up our sleeve. So yeah, so there's a point in the morning where you guys can separate. And like usually it's kind of, I like to really have a bit of a chat with the groom, like, oh man, like this is going to be like so good. Like he's such a lucky dude. Like we're going to have like so much fun. And really just get him like hyped up for that moment. And I do like to have a little bit of time, like really get him to reflect on like the day and why he's eloping. And I feel like it just puts him into this mood. He's like, yeah, like it's happening. And I do the same with the bride as well. And I know you do as well. But it just makes it, like it just anticipating and like baiting that moment. So it's a bit special. But what would you like, how would you usually like direct, like a first look? Like, is there like a usual process that you go through?
Yeah, I try and keep it pretty natural. And I suppose the reason why I keep it natural is because that moment is something that is special to the two of you. And I don't think that's a moment that I should be directing. I don't think that's a moment that I should be doing, I guess, the way that Matt Ashton wants to do it. Do you know what I mean? So most of the time I'm getting them to like stand at a point where they're like, the groom's in front facing the wrong way, the bride's cruising up behind, and she might stop like a couple of meters away. Normally I'll just like get a few shots for my own personal self because I'm solo shooting. So I'm running around a bit of a circle. I get as many shots as I can that I need to get. And then I kind of just like hold it for a second and I go up to the bride and I say, this is your time. You're in control. Like if you want to run over and squeeze him on the bum, if you want to, I don't know, jump on his back, if you want to like just tap him on the shoulder, or if you want to yell at him to turn around, like whatever you want to do in this moment, this is your moment to do that. And I feel like doing it that way, it really shows the personality of the couple too. And then we get a really good idea as to how they're going to be together for the rest of the afternoon as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I like to just have a bit of a conversation like with, usually like the boss of the couple, so typically the bride. And I'm like, how do you want to do this? Like, do you want like, and usually just give ideas. Like, do you want to go like up to him? Like, do you want the groom to like look away and you like come up to him, or do you want it the other way around? And like, you know, like, would you like to like walk up to him, give him a slap on the bum or something, and really like add their own spice to it? So yeah, like I'm the same. I like to just incorporate like, well, what would they rather do? Like, do they want it like super emotional? Or I know the ones that we've had, like it's pretty fun. Like they usually go up and, you know, give each other like a big hug or like slap on the bum.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember the one we did with Jay and Nick as well? And I remember that we got them because Nick just wanted to like touch him. So we got them to go. And they also, neither of them knew what each other were wearing, which was kind of cool. I really thought that was epic. Like I like that. And so what they did was like, we got them to not look at each other at all. And we got them to like back up to each other essentially. So they were touching hands. And so then there was like this like anticipation. And like, I remember like Nick just being like, I can't do this anymore. And she was like, and I was like, well, it's not up to, we did make him wait a little bit, but she just like could not wait any longer. And then I was like, all right, it's fully up to you guys. And they turned around and like, it was such a beautiful reaction. I'm pretty sure we've posted that as well on our podcast Instagram as well. So yeah, go and check that out if you want to see a bit of a like view from what we see from that.
And that was a super emotional like moment. And like Jay's a big dude too. Like you didn't really expect him to get like too emotional. And then like Nick's like, give me a dance. And
yeah, he was getting so into it, wasn't he? It was great. It was, yeah. And I think that's the thing is like there is, for a first look, there is a lot more space for you to be emotional. And I know that sounds weird coming from two dudes talking about this stuff. But there definitely is like a lot more space, a lot less pressure around that first look. And, you know, like, yeah, there's just like, I feel like if you're doing that in front of like in a micro wedding or a full wedding, and you're seeing your bride for the first time walk down the aisle, you're trying to be tough for the boys, or like whatever that is. But in a first look, especially with an elopement, it just makes it that little bit more special. It allows that little bit more space, and really allows you guys to be you.
Yeah. So it gives you a little bit, I think, like a little bit more like time, and also it gives you the ability to be a little bit more vulnerable as well, because it's typically just you guys. So yeah, you don't have anyone waiting, you don't have time constraints to get like ready like in a reasonable time. So yeah, you can really make it your own by applying, I think, just things that are really you, things that are like uniquely you.
Absolutely. And it's all about you at the end of the day.
All right, number 3. Give us a rundown on what number 3 is, mate, in 5 ways to make your elopement epic.
Mate, I'm so excited for number 3 because I feel like as creatives, as photographers and videographers, this is like what we want out of every single shoot that we do. And if we, like this is probably, an elopement is probably the only, or one of the only shoots, especially wearing like a wedding dress and things like that we can actually go and do this. So we are talking, go and explore. Go and feel like you can get away from the normal, venues or the normal farm weddings or the beaches or anything like that. You can literally go anywhere you want to go for your portraits, for your ceremony, literally for any part of the day, realistically, and make sure that it's somewhere that's special to you and that is epic, and brings you joy.
Yeah. Like a location is the big one here. And like it really gives you the opportunity to, if you're having an elopement, to think about like where are some places that have like a lot of value to you guys. So where's somewhere that's quite significant to you both. And it really, there's no restrictions here. Like if you want to go on the edge of a cliff, like, man, I am so down for that. It's like I have done some amazingly like epic like elopements in the Blue Mountains, and we've like hiked for like half an hour. Like we've even done one hike for like 45 minutes through like wet bushland in Lithgow, and like, yeah, like it was phenomenal. And it's like, yeah, like it's just because it's like some places have like just such a significance to it. Yeah, man. Like, what's some other reasons why you think like elopements and location's such a big one? Like, we probably should have put these a little bit further up, but it's really something that can be almost anywhere. Like, I know I've got one coming up in a couple of months that's in like a state forest overlooking like views of like the Hunter Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got one as well together. I think it's in January maybe. And that's like down in like Jervis Bay. And it's like on the edge of like a cliff overlooking the ocean. And like they said that's exactly where they want to go. That's like special to them. And they want to like, go there together. Look, it's not only places that are beautiful, but it's places that are uniquely you. And I think that's the main thing, is that like at the end of the day, like we're not doing it because we want to go there. We're going there because you guys want us to go there. So if that means us hiking for an hour, carrying stuff, or if that means like you guys literally leaving your wedding dress and your suit in their bags and putting them on in the middle of the bush somewhere, whatever it is, like, we're all for that. We want to make sure that you guys are doing things that bring you joy, that make you excited, that make it feel special. And, if you're doing an elopement, that's exactly like the couple of points that we want from your day.
100%. So elopements can be anywhere of your choosing, absolutely anywhere. So have a think about where's somewhere that's important, where's somewhere that's significant, and make it happen.
Get it done. All right, number 4. And I feel like this is one that we're kind of like, we've touched on already, but I feel like we maybe are just continuing to really, I guess, prove or, show value to how important some of these points are for us. And that is, do things the way you want with the people you want to do it with. And so if you are only having a limited amount of people, like invite those people that are special to you that you really want there. And if you're having 5 people, like, I feel like I can name 5 people that I'd really want at my elopement, or, it might not even be people necessarily in terms of your guests, but maybe it's about the vendors. Maybe it's about the way that you want to do your day, and maybe it's the people that you want included to make sure that it is the way that you guys want it and to bring you joy and value on the day.
Yeah, and we've spoken about it before, and in a separate podcast about like finding out like what's your negotiable, what's your non-negotiable, and I think it plays a role here as well. Like with your elopement, do the things that are of value to you. So elopements, like again, you have so much like control over what you're doing. So think about all the different things that you could include, like or or the things that you're not going to include, and just make it special, make it uniquely you.
Absolutely. And it's little things as well. Like you don't like, and I suppose with like a wedding or a micro wedding, people like, you've got to do a cake and you've got to do this and you've got to do that.
No way.
Especially with like wedding, like with the elopement side of things, like there's things like a lot of these like formalities that we normally do, you don't have to do. But maybe there are little things that you still want to do. So maybe it's like, we still want to have a first dance. Like, man, I'm all for that. I know Tim is too. Like, let's get some movement happening. Let's do a first dance, still make that special in that sense, maybe it's something as simple as, I don't know.
Eating cake together,
Yeah, like bring some snacks, like whatever that is. Yeah, bring some champagne, bring some beers, like there's still a lot of things that we can do on your wedding day or elopement day that is going to make it special.
Yeah. Like trash the dress or have a bit of a swim at the end of the...
Oh, yeah, jump off that cliff into the water. Not just jump off the cliff in general, into the water.
Or jump on a paddleboard,
we've done that. We've done one of them before, haven't we? The old going from the paddleboard.
That was like so like random, hey? Like it was just like
impromptu.
I was just taken back.
It was just not planned at all. It was great.
Oh, love it. And number 5, mate, is make it personal.
I love this because I feel like all the things we've been talking about so far is all about the two of you. And I think that, look, at the end of the day, if you're eloping, you're going to make it personal regardless. But there are a few little things that I think you can do that just add to that a little bit more. And it's something very, very simple. Like, and the few elopements, especially recently that we've been doing, like, our couples have been doing this, which I've been loving, is like doing personal vows to each other, making sure that you write some vows to your partner, and you guys are reading them to each other in private. It doesn't necessarily have to happen during the ceremony. You can just do the legals only part and then sneak, like, at some point on the like edge of the cliff or, like in this like epic little location that you guys have picked out or that we found for you guys, you can read those vows to each other, and it's always such a special moment and I love it.
Yeah. So like, even though the legals only, like in the elopement that we had the other week, like it was on the edge of a cliff, like it was pretty cool, but it was a little windy. The light was harsh. So, we just said, well, would you like to do your vows at a different location? And we found we went for a drive. Like we found this like amazing like area, like covered by bush and like amazing trees, and then just like a little bit of light kind of like just shining down in a particular area, it was like it was a 15-minute drive away. We did private vows there and it was just special.
It was super
I feel
magic.
like it really elevated like their experience as well.
Absolutely. And especially I think because the way that we shot that too, like, for us personally, like, and I guess it's a bit of a hot tip for like any other like photographers and videographers out there, like don't get in their face in this period of time. Like if they're doing personal vows, like, yes, you want to record it, you want to capture it, you want to do all these things for them, but like you want to kind of like take a few steps back further than normal. Maybe you need to put a longer lens on. I don't know. And just give them a bit of space so that they can freely and openly talk to each other. And if that means them getting emotional and all that sort of stuff, try and capture it from afar, I guess, and not get up in their grill.
Yeah. Like for me, like I don't mention it because it's something that just comes natural. Like I don't want to, like, especially like for video, like, yeah, like I'll hook up a lav mic, so I can utilize that audio. But like when we're shooting it, like it's like we kept this, like I feel like it was like an 8-meter distance. Hey?
Cone of silence.
Like, I know, like, and we were just absolute silence. I remember like as I was like walking like around, like I was tiptoeing, making sure not to step on any twigs or leaves.
Yeah, and then like you had a second camera set up with your tripod, and I was like doing the limbo underneath it, trying not to like get in the way. So look, I definitely think I think because we have worked together a fair bit, that comes naturally to us personally, but I do think there's definitely people out there that may not have done it before, and maybe that's a little hot tip for you guys today when it comes to some of these like more personal aspects of a elopement, is that just to kind of give the couple some space, and hopefully that brings the couple a little bit of like ease and clarity around like something that can be a bit of a nerve-wracking experience. Nobody really loves to like public speak, hey? Like,
Yeah.
It's taken us a little bit of time to warm up to this old podcast gig that we've thrown ourselves into the deep end. So I can only imagine what it's like for couples that aren't really that, I don't know, PDA.
Yeah, like just think about it, guys. Like a couple has, yes, like especially if you're doing like video, and even for photo, a couple has booked you to capture like their special day, but it doesn't mean you need to get all up in their grill and, like no one feels comfortable like with a camera in your face. So if you've got like a 24 mil and you're like a meter or two away, like just have a think about that as well. Like, yeah, you may be getting it pretty close and maybe it's a good angle for what you want to get, but just get a longer lens, get further away, give them some space. Like, yes, you're going to capture it, but just capture it in the right way. Have a little bit more like respect and understanding that this is an elopement. They want it to be as intimate as possible. And, like this goes for like during that like so-called portrait session as well. Like, just let it flow a little bit differently from like usual weddings. Like you don't have the usual like time constraints. So, let them be as natural like as possible. And I think for us, like we do that naturally, like for every kind of like whether it's a wedding or an elopement. But I think with an elopement, like it just becomes that it's just that bit more like intimate as well. So we really want to like draw on that fact to ensure that we can like really like bring out like these natural kind of like more intimate vibes. And I know after that vows, after their private vows, like they're like, yeah, like let's find somewhere cool, let's pop some champagne, like let's have some fun, let's have a dance party.
Yeah, it was kind of like the it was definitely like that, like I don't know, like that key to the opening the party vibes kind of thing. Like, the hard part's done, so to speak, I guess, or the part where they were most vulnerable was done. And yeah, it was time to kind of relax, get into it, have some fun. And yeah, just touching on what you just said about like, the way that we shoot, like, we don't have to make it a production set for any wedding really, but especially an elopement. Like, we want to maybe pare it back a little bit, still get the content that we need, but yeah, just not fill up the couple's faces with a bazillion cameras. It's probably a little bit unnecessary, and just try and really focus on making it more about them and getting the content that we need at the end of the day.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate.
Love it, mate. I feel like there's so many things we can talk about when it talks about making it personal, and we've been touching on it. And as I said earlier, the reason why we've made this last is because the whole day should be personal, and the whole reason why we are doing, or talking about these elopements and the way that you can make them epic is because at the end of the day, we should be bringing it back to you, and at the end of the day, you guys should be including things that are special to the two of you. There's a reason why you're getting married, and include that in your day. Include things that, I guess like that you want to do, and that you may not have thought you could do on your wedding if you were thinking about doing the wedding and you've gone to the elopement because you thought it was more you guys. Make it special, make it personal.
Yeah. If you guys want to go for a surf in the morning, do it.
Get it.
If you want to go for a surf after the ceremony, do it.
Yeah, we'll come.
We'll love that. Good. Well, mate, this was a nice, short and sharp podcast. I think it kind of brings us back to like the first couple that we did that were kind of around that 30-minute mark too. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, hopefully this is bringing value to all of you out there listening. And if you're planning an elopement, maybe listen to this podcast a couple of times, and let's just run through those 5 things in dot points real quick, Tim, and make sure that everyone, if you are listening out there, that you get that value out of this.
Let's do it. All right. 5 ways to make your elopement epic. Number 1 is an elopement is not a plan B. Number 2, get ready together. Things like first look. Like a first look is something that I think is really like a must-have, only if it's of value to you, but it's something really special. And I think you'd be almost missing out on something if you did not do a first look with your elopement. Number 3 is location. So good things with elopement is that you really have so much like control, and you're not limited by an establishment or a venue. So figure out somewhere that's important or of value to you and just go for it. Number 4 is do things the way you want to, with the people you want to. Make it special, you know? Like it's an elopement is such like an intimate moment. And yeah, like that. Why don't you take this one?
And number 5 is my favorite, I reckon, purely because I love this and I love that people love to make it personal. And yeah, that is it. It is making it personal, making it all about you. Think about maybe writing your own vows for each other. Think about taking time to really reflect on the couple that you are, and yeah, just why you are where you are. And I think if you can, include some of these 5 things into your elopement, it is going to be epic. And I'm sure there are a lot more out there. These are just 5 points that we have decided to chat about today. But yeah, we hope that you guys are getting value out of this. If you are loving what we are doing, please make sure you give us a bit of a review. We would love to hear from you guys too about any topics you want us to talk about in the future. But yeah, we really appreciate you all listening, and we will see you all next week.
That's it.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.